Welcome to the Real Estate Deep Dive with Paul D. Garrison from JP and Associate Realtors. Well, you've probably heard me say it before, but headlines often frighten more than they enlighten. Well, it's probably never been more true than it is today. So today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to try and remind you all a little bit about that and kind of dig down on what the actual facts or data is in the market, try and dispel some of that fear and help you understand what's actually going on out there. So a perfect example of this is this headline right here. 15 years ago, the housing market crashed under similar circumstances. So if you read into the article, the similar circumstances we're talking about is that the Fed was raising interest rates at this particular time back in 2007. Well, yes, it's true. We've seen a pretty rapid increase in rates over the last year. We've actually most recently started to see a bit of a downward trajectory of interest rates in the last couple of weeks. Let me actually use this graph that zooms in on those past couple of weeks, and you can actually see that downward trajectory. Now, it is not nearly as dramatic as the rate increases that we've seen. As the saying goes, when rates climb, they take the elevator. When they go down, they take the stairs. So they then tend to fall a lot slower than they tend to rise. Unfortunately, most people only read the headlines and don't take the time to read the article or understand the bigger picture. Here's a reproduction of a graphic Lawrence Yun, the chief economist for the National Association of Realtors, recently shared in a presentation. Today is nothing like 15 years ago. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually drill down on some of the key points he makes in this chart. The first area is jobs. So back 15 years ago, there were job cuts of around 8 million jobs lost. Today's market, there's nothing of note. Total number of jobs was 138 million. We're up at about 158 million currently. The difference he's highlighting in these two items is the difference in the strength of the economy now compared to 15 years ago. Now, in regards to jobs, our national economy is doing much better than it was 15 years ago. But because real estate markets can be very regional and so can local economies, I would like to take it a step further and drill down and see how our state's economy is doing. So with that in mind, let's take a look at this chart that shows the percentage increase in our real gross domestic product by state from Q2 of 2022 to Q3 of 2022. Texas actually had the second highest increase in the nation behind Alaska with an 8.2% increase. That's more than twice the national average of 3.2%. Let's also take a look at the percentage change in personal income. Texas had a 6.9% increase in personal income during the same time, which while not double the national average is still above the national average of 5.3%. I think it's safe to say that Texas's economy is faring pretty well. Definitely better than 15 years ago. Let's take a look at the next point he makes, subprime loans. While in 15 years ago they were very prevalent and many people would say one of the leading causes of the housing crisis, now they're virtually none. Lenders have actually worked since 2007 to reduce product risk dramatically. You can actually see that in this chart from the Urban Institute. In addition to that, mortgage debt to income ratios are near historic lows. Let's take a quick look at these next 2 points he makes. They're the level of new home construction over the previous 5 years and the current number of homes for sale on the market. Both of these have to do with supply or whether there is an oversupply of homes in the market. 15 years ago, builders were going crazy and building homes as fast as possible. Not only were they building for their existing contracts, but many builders were building what were called spec homes, basically building new homes based on the speculation that there would be buyers wanting to purchase them once they were completed. This contributed to the oversupply of homes in the last housing crisis because the builders were stuck holding these homes when the demand dropped. Now, 15 years ago, new construction was at 7.65 million. Today, it's at 4.6 million. Now, let's look at the total number of homes on the market. 15 years ago was 3.8 to 4 million, while today it's around 1 to 1.2 million. A very different picture. But again, real estate can be very regional, and these are national numbers. So let's take a quick look at what the numbers are for the 4 major counties in DFW. This chart shows the inventory levels over the last 5 years for the 4 major counties in DFW. Note the red line I've drawn to highlight the beginning of 2020. You will see that we do not have an oversupply, but rather that we're actually returning to more of a normal kind of pre-pandemic market. Yes, it was a rather sudden return, which corresponds with the sudden rise in mortgage rates and the uncertainty in the financial markets. Keep in mind that all markets dislike uncertainty. This has a lot of buyers sitting on the sidelines right now. But if you look at the most recent months, inventory levels have flattened around 2 months of supply. Months of supply refers to the number of months it would take for the current inventory of homes on the market to sell given the current sales pace. So even at the slower, more normal pace we are seeing now, we have about 2 months of pre-owned homes for sale on the market, not an oversupply that would cause a crash in the home prices. Now let's look at the final 2 points, mortgage delinquencies and homes in foreclosure. 15 years ago, about 10.1% of mortgages were delinquent, and today only about 3.6% are. 15 years ago, 4.6% of homes were in foreclosure. Today, only 0.6% are. Sometimes it's better to actually visualize that. So again, here's a graph of foreclosures. Now, yes, they are up since 2021, but they are still near record lows. So again, if we look at the 2008-2009 timeframe, the peak of the last housing crisis, we had over 2 million homes in foreclosure. Right now we're at around 88,000 homes. Okay, so I think I've kind of made my point that you can't trust headlines. You have to actually dig into the data and understand the larger picture of what's really going on. But why is it important to understand that? Unfortunately, a lot of people just aren't doing that. And that's kind of reflected in a recent survey that was done by LendingTree. So here's a look at that survey. 41% of Americans believe that the housing market will crash in the next 12 months. 72% of those who believe that the housing market will crash think it's going to be as bad as the crash in 2008. 58% of that group expects the housing market to crash in the next year, say they are postponing housing-related changes because of that. And this is what concerns me, is that people are postponing or making decisions based off of misinformation or misunderstanding the information that's out there. So if you're postponing or holding off on making a decision, please reach out, contact me. Let's drill down on your specific situation. Let's look at the data and help you see the larger picture so that you can help make an informed decision. So it's easy to get caught up in kind of doom and gloom, and especially when listening to the headlines for that. So I wanted to leave with this quick slide of the average sales prices over the last 2 years for the 4 major counties. And if you look at this, depending on which county you're in, you'll notice that year over year we're up anywhere from 7 to 14%. Even with the coming off of the highs, we're still up 7 to 14%, depending on which county you live in. So there's a little something to keep positive.
Many of the metrics and numbers in this presentation are based off of the national real estate market. However, local areas can vary. Please give me a call and we can discuss your situation. Have questions about your specific needs or location? Please contact me at 214-683-8188 or paul@pauldgarrison.com. Want more information about the housing market and related issues? Be sure and check out my blog at www.pauldgarrison.com.
Thank you for your time. Please take a moment to visit our website at www.pauldgarrison.com.